Your show's rubbish.
And a one, and a two, and a 1, 2, 3, go.
Hello, and welcome to the Trout Spinners. This is a one-off special show where we're going through your feedback. It's XFM in the community, but a whole show because we have quite a bit of feedback this week and over the past couple of weeks. So we wanted to give it the time and attention that it deserves in its own show. We've done it before. We might do it again. It's just a little thing we do sometimes. But I'm here. I'm Gary Forrestal, by the way, if you didn't know. And,
They did.
I'm here with my colleague. That's all we are. It's all official. What's your name, Miles?
Friends by now, familiar. Trout Spinners, where podcast hosts meet.
Yes,
Miles
yes,
Pennell,
yes.
thank you. And also, just to sort of snowball onto that, it is our birthday, our podcast birthday. We've been going for about a year. We started in November last year, and a year on, and we've done 30 odd episodes.
That's pretty
Happy
good going.
birthday.
No, don't. No, you don't sing that. You have to pay about
Oh yeah, you do, don't
500
you?
quid. So it's
How are you feeling on this momentous day that I'm sure everyone around the country is celebrating?
well, there's street parties and things, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's not actually our birthday, but it's roughly around the time when we started doing this. And actually, we were speaking about this last week, and you said to me, because they did start going out in November, but we'd actually started recording in about June.
I think that was just waves of anxiety, like, oh, shall we post it? Shall we post
We posted it after we'd done about 6 or 7, and then we started posting them in November. So we started this bloody hell in June because it was sunny. Remember?
Oh, do you remember the sun? Remember the
Yeah.
sun? I'm actually going to a pub tomorrow, and this is, you know how we will always sit in a pub garden. This is the first time where I'm kind of thinking, wouldn't mind sitting inside because it's bloody freezing now.
I promise
and
you.
it might even be too cold for me. And
No,
most people hate sitting outside because I smoke.
You will
And
be
so they
inside.
hate sitting outside because
You will be inside for 1.5 minutes and then go, should we go outside? Because you'll be dying for a cigarette. That's what will happen.
That's so true. And I'm getting ready. I've looked at the menu because I'll have to order a substantial meal.
Yeah.
So I'm having my rounds
Most
are very
heavily
expensive tomorrow. I'm a little bit bitter about having to spend this money, but you know what? I'm going to take my time. I'm going to eat, and I'm really going to take my time drinking. I might order 4 drinks with some pie and mash.
I don't think they'll
So
let you.
is that enough lubricant for you, sir? Okay, thanks very much. You get a tip, mate.
Get the mash going down your throat with another bit of cider.
That's nice.
Yeah.
If Aspel sponsor us, imagine if Aspel sponsored this podcast.
I know.
I'd never have to pay again.
They wouldn't be seen dead with this. They get like classy people involved in their adverts. You know, if you've seen one of their adverts, it's like a film. It's like, you know, all stuff's happening and they're in the orchard and, you know, it's like proper. They're not.
All right. Should I go on with our XFM community?
Yeah, so the way we usually do, Miles will read it out. Some of these I've read myself, some I haven't, but I'm always interested in your feedback. But we kind of get into the habit of Miles reading them and I'll react, so that's how we're going to do it.
First, let's kick off with Toby. Toby is a new listener. Hi, lads. I'm sure you're very busy men. We're not.
We are actually.
No, well, sometime. So I'll keep this email short. I just wanted to say I'm absolutely loving the show. I'm currently 10 episodes behind, but I listen to at least 2 a day. It's like vegetables, isn't it? Our show keeps you healthy, keeps your bowels going, keeps you
2 doses a day.
You guys have great chemistry, great analysis, and your own anecdotes are funny. Keep it up. Can you imagine that? A funny anecdote. I've never told an anecdote in my life.
No, you're not very good at kind of.
My mum says that. She's like, you're not a very good storyteller.
No, you don't.
Get to the point. Get to the point.
No, that's my problem. Is even narrative that lasts about an hour to say.
You're the Lord of the Rings, and I'm the very hungry caterpillar, I think.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I quite like butterflies, so I don't know. I see you as something less attractive than that. Not physically, but in storytelling wise. But anyway, this is an example.
Even that was torturous.
This is not an example of Toby liking our anecdotes because there were But seriously, thanks, Toby. I really appreciate that. And yeah, it's nice that you're enjoying the show. And I hope by now, I imagine 2 a day. That email came in a while ago. You're probably up to date, so you can probably hear this show when it goes out.
This one's from Peter Fletcher. Just discovered this podcast. Another new listener. God, they're coming in by their
Peter Fletcher. That's like what's the funny name that there's? I can't remember. No, the funny name that's not funny. We're getting to the show soon.
Gerald Preston.
Gerald Preston, yeah. Peter Fletcher.
Fletcher, our own Gerald Preston.
It's quite funny. But no, I like the name. But in my grandpa's called Peter.
I like it. Oh, connection. Just discovered this podcast even existed, so I'm going to start listening right now whilst drinking a lovely glass of Bamrock Station, the wine that's perfect for a summer barbecue. I tell you what, we've got a lovely email coming up about someone who was a little bit pissed up whilst they were emailing us.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to email us when they've had a bit of wine.
Because we had to when they've had a drink, and that's exactly the sort of thing I would do.
Yeah, Daisy, I think, did once. I'm not saying anything out of.
I love it. No, you're not.
It was that the email.
No, yeah, that was the email.
Okay, well, I thought there was more. Thanks so much, Peter. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And if you're listening to this, you probably did enjoy it. If you're not listening to this, you didn't enjoy it. You got to a stage and you thought, I can't be bothered anymore. And I think that's what people should do. You know, I think they should drop off. Because I don't want them as listeners, because I don't think it's good enough.
I like that episode of XFM when they said, do you know why some listeners stopped, why the figures were lower? The war.
Yeah.
The war.
Some died, smack addictions.
Just the thought of who's been listening. Terrorists, women, children. I went to my local Sainsbury's.
This sounds like an anecdote. This sounds dangerously like an anecdote. Sure, you're going to tell it well.
No punchline. And there was a bloke who looked exactly the same as Saddam Hussein.
Oh, really? Was he in a mask? Was he?
He was. I mean, you covered my lack of story with your analysis, observation. Yeah. Well done. This one's from Harry. Let's move on. He really did though. This was from Harry. Yeah, I will. This is an audio recording. We always like to get our listeners MP3 files.
Oh, he sent in audio. Wow.
Yeah. Shall we hear it?
Yeah.
Buy it, sell it, the game's getting hard, because someone's dealing you a losing card. Hey guys, just wanted to say, great show, really enjoy listening to you both. It still amazes me there are other people out there who continually listen to the XFM shows almost 20 years after they were recorded. It just blows my mind. Something I would like to ask both of you and also the other listeners is, what are your favourite prizes that have been on the show? As you heard earlier, I was doing an impression of Ricky with regards to popular northern-based sitcom Bread. But I'd like to hear what your other favourite prizes are. The Talons of Weng Chang, a Doctor Who classic, springs to mind for me. But great show, keep it up, and see you later.
So that was Harry. Good question, actually. Interesting.
Thanks,
one.
Harry. Yeah, it is amazing that people are still talking about them 20 years later, and that's why we're doing the show, because there is an audience out there. We haven't found actually much of that audience, but we're getting there slowly. But thanks for listening. And interesting. I always, it's a bit maybe of a not the most interesting one, but a Children of the Corn. Just the reaction he gets from Children of the Corn. I like the fact,
piece of corn.
Yeah, and I did on Twitter. I did a Linda Hamilton on. So I spent about 3 hours on this. Put her face on a piece of corn. No one reacted in any way, but so I think Children of the Corn has kind of an emotional attachment to me. And I can't remember what the prizes were, but I do like, if we're talking about prizes, the very last show of season 4 where someone wins appropriately. I can tell, Harry, you are from Scotland, and someone wins. I think they're in Edinburgh, and it's just Carl saying, how are we going to get them up there? And Ricky saying, it's just, like, we're a radio station. It's for us to worry about that, not the listener.
I like the bit at the end of series 1, the big sort of prize giveaway, and they end up doing like a sort of swap shop style thing. Is they've got a signed BAFTA bag with like Paul Whitehouse and everyone, and loads of different celebrities. And so I think we should give that away as a good prize. What do you think, Carl? And Carl goes, It's all right. I wouldn't want it, but
Yeah.
it's
True.
reaction. And then Ricky comes back and he says, "Oh," he's like, because they've actually got
Yeah.
He says, "Do people get you to do endorsements? No, drink Carlsberg. I wouldn't, but you can." I love. That's such a great moment for a series one, and that is actually a good prize because. I mean, let's be honest. Some of the videos that he gives away is for Carl in a film. The Shining, Sixth Sense.
Well, ironically, the best.
Like, they're actually good prizes, but they're on VHS. Great films, bad platform.
Well, the best prize, like objectively, until recently, was actually probably the signed Kevin Spacey DVD. But that probably has gone down in value, I imagine. But that was the only prize that was like genuinely decent.
I wouldn't mind having the little Only Fools and Horses little car. Oh, and a little yellow thing.
Oh yeah, that we need to. There's two things. We at some point, Mars and I want to do this a giveaway, like a competition where we send a prize somewhere, and it's either going to be a Victoria Plum or we could get a little car, a little independent Trotters independent thing.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind some of Steve gave out. Actually, Ricky gave out Hungry Hippos in one episode. I would have liked that because that's like, mind you, anyone that has won a prize as well and is listening to this show, do let us know. I mean, I don't know what we talk about. I mean, we'd have a good 5 minutes.
Almost impossible to find them, but if they were going to listen to something randomly, it probably would be this sort of podcast if they were interested in it then. So maybe, but also listeners in general let us know what, because Harry, I'll put that out to the listeners as well. What's your favourite prize? What's your funniest prize that's been given away? But thanks very much, Harry. Really appreciate your audio email, and keep them coming. Little nice to hear a Scott.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
We had an emailer from Alloa, which is in Scotland, and I said to you after we talked about it after, and I said, I'm really pleased we've got a Scottish listener. Like, there's something about.
Can't wait till we get to go to Edinburgh again. I was really gutted that we couldn't go this year.
Yeah, I imagine maybe not next year either, but we'll see.
No, next year will be okay.
No, if we
get any Scotch listeners, as Stuart Lee says, hook us up. Give us a place to stay in Edinburgh, because that place where we stayed last year, I ain't staying there again.
I've got video of that on my phone if anyone wants to see.
I might post that
on our. Yeah, do you know what? I might post that on our.
Our accommodation where Gary and I stayed in Edinburgh, and it was a room with a partition wall. We did speak about this last year, I think. But I'm going to be 31 next year. God, time does fly, doesn't it?
Yeah. Hang on, sorry. To complete that anecdote, we had water flooding down as well, and literally there was an inch or so of water across the whole flat, and
we had to put 5 saucepans underneath.
But also, because you just mentioned it, I'll just give it a brief plug. Our Patreon, we've got a Patreon account now, so do get in touch with us, sign up there, and we'll be putting extra things out, including video clips of ourselves and extra bonus shows. So go over there.
The first one's out now. Came out a few days ago, and it's basically Gary and I chat about some Reddit theories. Exactly. This one, this is a very moving email, so I'll take my time to. And this is from Peter Emanuelson, who's one of our Patreons, our lovely patrons.
Thanks,
my mother died 5 years ago from pancreatic cancer. I was devastated.
I was very sorry.
I'd already discovered The Office and extras by then. But after her passing, I found my way to the podcasts. Ricky Gervais is huge over here in Sweden, but not too many Swedes go beyond The Office. The podcasts gave me some kind of strength to keep going, and from the podcasts I found the old XFM shows and became infatuated right away from the first Rockbusters. I listened to them day and night throughout my grief. Years passed, and in May this year, my father suddenly died under tragic circumstances. To be able to sleep, walk, eat, or do anything at all, again, I took refuge in the old XFM shows, digging deeper this time, discovered Pilkopedia and your podcast. I think I'm through the worst of it now, but throughout the 2 worst crises of my life, the old XFM shows with Ricky, Carl and Steve have kept me moving on and brought some genuine happiness in otherwise miserable times. That's why I love your podcast. You guys obviously have a very similar affinity for the XFM shows as I do. Thank you so much, Peter, for that really personal.
It's very moving, and to hear that. And I'm so sorry you went through the loss of your mum 2 years ago and the loss of your dad this year. So it's horrendous. It's horrific, and I'm so pleased to hear that you have you've got so much solace in the XFM shows and all the podcasts and then the XFM shows, and it's amazing kind of what comedy can do, and things that you have an emotional attachment to, like the XFM shows, which lots of people do, because we've had comments before, people haven't gone through what you've gone through, but they've gone through difficult times, and it's helped them. The show's really helped them, which is nice. And Mars and I, I'm not saying we've been through difficult times as well, but nothing like what you've been through, Peter. Yeah, thanks so much for not just listening to us and finding this podcast, but sharing that with us. I think it's very, very kind of you to share that. Yeah, I wish you the best in your journey. I'm glad you say you're over the worst of it, but it must always be difficult. So, but you sound very, very strong person to have got over those, or to be getting over those two things. So thanks so much for your email. It's emotional.
And he's one of our patrons, and we did some of his Rockbusters on our last show, and they were great.
Yeah, no, I was going to say,
great we are
never doing this again, Peter. No, your Rockbusters were brilliantly rubbish. Yeah, so I think it's hopefully going to be a regular series, Peter's Rockbusters, and we can. We won't get to them today. I don't
Maybe
know.
we could give you some quality prizes, the best of Inspiral Carpets, or Wild Weather.
3 CDs.
I actually would have liked to have watched Wild Weather, to be fair. That wouldn't have been boring as well.
I saw Twister, the film. That's pretty boring.
Oh, that was terrible.
They hide in a barn, So what? Oh, also, Peter, I wanted to mention that, it's nice to have a listener in Sweden. And I would say to you that Ricky Gervais here is famous mainly through The Office as well. Like, certainly it's not like a big, huge thing, the XFM shows here. They are still very underground, like they are in Sweden. Ricky is still, by the vast majority of people, known because of The Office and, his sort of stand up and things like that. So yeah, it's still underground here, but lovely to have a listener in Sweden as well.
So to wrap us up, and I teased you with it before, are you going to get that again?
Oh,
this is from Sam Lock. I'm just going to take a bit of water first, because
is this part? Is this it's like Lord of the Rings part 1, part 2?
Should I do different voices? Should I affect the voice?
No, go on.
Hey Mike, direct address, like it. Hope you're good and don't have COVID or anything like that. Been enjoying listening to the podcast throughout, despite my email silent. I had just a bit of a thought when I was tad drunk and browsing YouTube videos of Ricky. Do you think he's embraced the narcissist he always was? In the XFM shows, he was always an ironic kind of narcissist, and he always came off looking good. For example, saying, what I'm actually saying is I'm not like that on a few occasions. However, from someone who does have worries of potentially being a bit of a narcissist themselves, I recognise a lot of who Ricky is, of who Ricky used to be in myself now, and they aren't very positive traits. I don't know if anyone else I've spoken to has ever noticed while listening to the XFM shows, but Ricky cannot take criticism like the other two can. Even joking about him in general, you can tell he gets touchy with. This in contrast to Carl and Steve, who take it constantly without issue or making the listener feel awkward, is massive.
I partly agree. I think Ricky can take criticism about his weight. Back in those days he could, and it's probably interesting that now he couldn't take that sort of criticism. There are times Ricky gets a bit touchy with the criticism that he gets in a more genuine way than Steve and Carl, who both deal with it. They know sort of, they're thinking comedically, how will this sound? And I think that in general, Ricky's absolutely, he's a narcissist back then, but he gets away with it. 1, because he's so funny, and 2, because he's self-aware. So he talks about it, he's self-aware, he knows, he admits it, and he's really funny. These days, both those things maybe are slightly lacking. He's not as funny, he's more serious in general, talks about more serious political kind of issues, and I think he seems less self-aware, but certainly he's a narcissist, and being a narcissist, that's a terrible trait to have. He gets away with it because he's so funny with it, and I agree with you that he's a narcissist then, and certainly is now.
I think we'll see what Sam says next, but I do partly agree with you, because being a narcissist, there is a line between, being very, very ultra confident and being arrogant, and it's about, judging that line. And I think a lot of people, that's a very hard line to balance on.
But it's a very clear line as well. It's not like a very blurred thing where I can't think of an example. There's certain traits that blend into one another. This is a very clear, hard and fast line. Like, you're right, it's a close thing, if you're there, but it's if you're judging it for yourself, for your own behavior. But for someone else being around you, it's a very clear line whether you are a very confident person or a narcissist. And it's very good of someone to have that, if they are a narcissist, to kind of realize that they have those traits, and that will help them kind of break out of that. But it's a very, very clear dividing line between someone. I've been around people who are confident, and they're confident people. But do you know what confident people do? Really confident people, they bring other people up with them. They instill confidence in others because they're confident. They don't need to kind of be compared to other people. So it's good for everyone to be confident. A narcissist would not want others to be confident around them, really, because they would be looking to sort of win and sort of be look down upon other people. Not, this is a general thing. Some people who are narcissists are different to others, but in general, that's my observation. If you're very confident, you bring others up. If you're narcissist, you kind of put
that
people
would
down.
that would explain why a lot of my past dating experiences ended badly.
Yeah. Would it? Yeah, I think
so.
it would. Well, no, and your friendships, including this one.
Well, no, we're still
Future.
friends. Sam goes on. Examples from the top of my head are the whole "they were slagging you off, Rick" discussion, where you can tell he's quite shaken by it. Also, anytime his intellectual ability is come into question is notable, such as the Hindenburg helium thing. I admit that he can definitely take criticism if he's the one to bring it up and be in control over it and bring it to the listener. Like the time he called someone up and said half of them were women regarding the gay Chinese fellas or something. But it seems to me if Steve says something and he's caught off guard, he lends to try to defend himself. Even though he laughs, I don't think he takes Carl being right about the white lighthouse riddle very well either. I can't think of any off the top of my head now either, but anytime his appearance is laughed at, which is almost never, he doesn't seem to like it. This is obviously when Sam's halfway into the bottle of his Riesling.
Nothing. No, I completely agree. Actually, something just came to my mind. I don't know if it's the lighthouse. I don't recall.
He does get that on, but he says, why would you keep the light of the lighthouse on?
Yeah. I can't. Yeah, there's a clearer example of that kind of lends support to what Sam is saying. So I'll bring it up, and it's when this is one of the few times I've really thought you are being a dick now. You just can't handle it. And it's where it's the mass murderer. And it's like inviting them to your wedding. And it's basically it's a test, and it is a test. I've looked it up. It is a test for psychopathy. Psychopathy. It's for being a psychopath. I don't know how to say that like that, but psychopathy. And basically, Carl says the test, and then he says the answer, and straight away Rick is like, before he knows the answer, like, oh, this is stupid test. The only reason he's saying that is because he doesn't know the answer. And Carl reveals the answer, and he's genuinely like a dickhead to Carl. Really slags him off, like not jokingly, slags him off, and it's purely because Ricky didn't get that. Now Carl's citing a really interesting little test to see if someone's a psychopath, and of course it's sort of like
he's getting it wrong, isn't he? He's obviously getting it wrong.
No, who is?
No, I'm saying Carl in the way that he because I know what test you're referring to.
He's not
he's
getting
clearly no, but he's probably not explaining it enough.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, probably, but that's no justification for anything.
Like, no, of course not.
He just said, "Do you meet someone at a wedding? How do you tell if they're a psychopath?" That would be something that would reasonably.
Gary, did you see that film Gaylord Say No last night?
Oh, I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Oh, it's a fat fella with lipstick. Hello.
Yeah. But that's another example of and I kind of agree with Sam. If Ricky's not controlling the narrative, I do think that still, even when Ricky isn't controlling it or bringing it up necessarily, he can take hits about his weight, and that's one thing he can take hits, because there are some examples where Steve does bring it up kind of ad hoc, maybe, but Ricky might have been insulting Steve in some way. So yes, he's controlling it in that sense, but he's not controlling what Steve says back to him, and he's not bringing up his weight, and it is brought up, and I think he reacts to it quite well. That's an interesting thing that I don't think he would be like that now. I think now he's lost weight and looks really good for his age. He's lost that kind of, even that bit of like being able to take a hit. But yeah, interesting points that Sam's made. Is there more?
There is a lot more we can go on.
Each time we pause, we've got to guess how much more Sam has drunk since the last time we started.
Yeah, so at this point he's halfway through his Riesling. So he's on his like third glass on his own. What is he doing? What is Sam doing at this point?
I think the room is, no lights are on. he's sitting on a chair, not the sofa. Deliberately.
Yeah.
At his laptop.
That sounds like your life.
Oh yeah. No wait, sorry, that's not Sam's life. It's my life. No, but
Like one night.
But anyway, proceed.
Okay, cool. Here we go.
I've got a life to lead. Do you know what I mean? No, I'm joking.
Well, you all do in a way. I say this because I'm actually quite like to Ricky in life, where I can be very outwardly antagonistic and extroverted, yet funnily, when it comes back at me in the same way, which it rarely does, I can be surprised at how much I don't like it. Going back to the whole, has he just embraced his narcissism now thing? I think it ties to what I was saying, because to how many yes men he now has around him. I think his level of grandiose was never sustainable when his fame got to where it was, and he finds it easier now to just not take any criticism altogether. I've seen him make jokes about the awards setup before, but a part of me is so confused how you can continue with a joke even for more than 30 seconds, because even more than 30 seconds before it being a shameless gloat, he has it present every time he broadcasts now to me that it's bordering on psychopathy.
Yeah.
I think Sam's getting very It's a really interesting thing, Sam, you mentioned, because you're relating your life to Ricky and his personality, and obviously it's a concern for you, and and I can sort of see that, because you naturally do compare yourselves to the figures around you, and particularly if it's someone that you aspire to be, or enjoy the company of, then you naturally go, am I like that? Do I do that?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, if Sam sort of recognises narcissistic traits in his personality, if you do, Sam, as I say, it's not a nice personality trait, but what is impressive is sort of being able to recognise that off other people, and comparing yourself to Ricky. But a lot of us compare ourselves to people we look up to, or did look up to, in looking for a positive trait that we share, or positive traits that we share, but you've seen a negative one in yourself. So I mean, there's certainly hope for you, and I'm certainly not speaking as someone with no bad traits at all. So but no one could, if anyone who was like Ricky is on the show in real life, that would be completely unacceptable, to be that antagonistic. But I do give him lots of leeway, because one, he does reference and talk about his arrogance, but two, he's on a show, and I think there's lots of people in life who kind of look up to Ricky, who will be a bit like that in real life, with maybe someone who's kind of a bit lower down the pecking order at work or something, a bit like that, how he is with Carl. And it's like, you can never, you should that's, I'm not saying you are, Sam, I'm just saying this is like, people try and be Ricky, and they misread what is good about Ricky, which is his incredible ability to make people laugh through his writing and his performing, which he still has to a degree, but less so. and they mistake kind of being antagonistic and kind of winding someone up all the time as being funny. The only reason it's funny is because it's on radio. We know it's on radio. He's doing it for an entertainment show. He's like that to Carl in off air, I'm sure, but it's kind of an overall package, and he does get away with it. And with the awards, I think I never hear him talking about an awards on XFM and thinking that's arrogant. It's the arrogance that is what I call acceptable arrogance, because it's like it's so over the top. And yes, now he does kind of have the awards displayed wherever he's kind of interviewed or whatever, and I actually don't have too big a problem with that. It is arrogant, but if that was the only thing that he did now that was kind of seemingly displayed arrogant qualities, I'd be absolutely fine with it. I'd still feel the same about him now, because I don't think it's that bad. Never won an award. I'd probably put it in as far away from people as possible, but Ricky has this personality that he's built up over the years, and that is one aspect where I do give him leeway. But it's everything else around it. It's around it and how he comes across, how he uses Twitter, how he uses his Twitter platform. Those are serious sort of things that do display real narcissism, and that isn't backed up by being funny like it used to be. And I think that really is a problem. Very interesting point, Sam.
Absolutely. And what point was Sam in his Riesling when he constructed that part of the email?
No. He was on Gordon's by that time.
He was cutting limes at that point. He's like, I'm cutting the lime. Right, I've got some fever tree in my fridge, and
no tonic.
No, straight to the vein. Straight to the vein. No, it's not. We love you, Sam. And Sam did actually wrap up his email very kindly by saying, "Love you both. Thank you for your pod. I hope we're still on for a beer whenever Boris allows." Well, the good news is Boris has allowed it. We're now out of the tier system. Well, no, we're out of lockdown. Aren't we? We're into the tier system. But I have news for you, Gary and Sam. I've been to a pub, and it is not a pleasant experience.
No,
it is bloody awful. I had one of the worst. Went out to meet a mate, right, and had a little sandwich, and the sandwich was insubstantial, not as substantial meal as Boris says. And they are so strict. You have to have like.
It's not their fault.
No, it's not. Look, I'm not saying that it's their fault.
No, it just could come across like that, but I know you.
Absolutely not. No, I've got mass respect for the hospitality industry as someone that used to work in it and hate it.
And will be again one day.
One day again. But you have to have like 2 chips on your plate for them to consider you to get an order. I'm not even joking. 3.
I know. I've heard. Yeah.
Chips. No, so it's ridiculous. My friend the other day said the police came. Right? The police came and checked the plates of all of these people.
Yeah.
Mental.
Well, yeah. It's a difficult one.
I'll probably continue drinking at home. Gary, what are you going to be drinking at home this weekend?
Well, I've got a couple of free chips that spare chips, I should say.
Well, no, you drink, because you only drink rum and brandy, don't you? And wine.
Well, I drink. that sounds. Even that makes. I always drink wine when I'm out. Not always when I'm out, but when I'm out having a drink, I will drink white wine. In my flat, I drink red and white wine. And sometimes on these calls, I have some brandy, but I rarely have brandy otherwise. I haven't had anything today.
You've been listening to the Trout Spinners podcast. It's been absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for your company.
And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. This was recorded about a week. There's 2 halves of this. We recorded literally mid-sentence. We had to stop because Mars had a work call or email or something. And so this is like a week after we started recording this show. Just a little insight. But yeah, thanks for all your emails in particular. All your emails are appreciated. But Peter Emanuelson in particular, thank you so much for being so open and sort of raw about what you've been through. And it's really hope that things improve for you. But yeah, Sam as well, and others. Thank you,
Gary.
And Sam. And so sorry, Sam. One thing I'll say, I can't remember if I said this before, and if I did, cut it out. But Sam did mentioned something else in his email, which was in response to what I was saying. And I said to Mars, if I start talking about that on air, this show will last 2 hours. So instead, I'm going to email you back directly, Sam, when I have some time, about that point, and we can sort of discuss it over email. But I'm not ignoring it. So
He doesn't want to buy that strap on. He doesn't want to buy it. All right.
I've got one with more girth.
Listen, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And coming up later this week, we have an exciting chat with Laurie Peters.
Oh, yeah.
Gary, who's Laurie Peters?
Whoa, he's crazy, like a little crazy frog there, you know. Laurie Peters is a childhood friend of Carl Pilkington. These days, he's an animator, designer, an illustrator, an artist, and works in media. Has done stuff with Ricky on extras, and does stuff with Carl quite often. He's just a mate of Carl's, and it was a pleasure to sit down with him. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't matter that I'm saying this. We've already interviewed him, but it's going to go out at some point. It was a fascinating interview. So I can only say really. And it was fascinating, not because of us, but because of Laurie Peters. So
there was some definite, like, I was proud of my own work during that.
Well, we are both proudest of my interviewing. But on that, listen to it if you want, and have a good week. We'll be back next week with a sort of a normal Trout Spinners, which we haven't done for ages, Mars. We've done
It's mental. Quite excited about it. Well, lots of love, guys. Take care, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend, whatever you're doing. And Gary, put your light on.
Okay.
I can't look at you in the dark anymore. You look like you're a crime file photo. Yeah. Do you remember that? What was that show? Crime Watch.
It's like an attachment thing, like the way we have an emotional attachment to the show. All our listeners, Mars and I, have an emotional attachment to the show. Mars has a very emotional attachment to seeing my beard, so he needs to see it all times.
That's not true. I hate your beard. I remember when you were a young svelte.
I was young and youthful when you were young. He was going to break out into songs.
It's just it's not Brand Gary. Brand Gary is clean shave.
I know, but
I just loved your moody badger look. That's what I was always drawn to as a friend.
Moody.
Anyway,
I think all that to be cut. Actually, yeah, cut all that because that's shit. But yeah, thanks very much for listening to this special XFM in the Community show. Have a good week. We'll see you with another show next week.